The chamber glittered with mirrored stone and arrogance. 12 Dominion envoys sat around the stellar dais, their voices layered through translation fields until mockery sounded like music. "Relic Earth," one of them said, letting the word hang. "A museum world that still worships gravity." Laughter rolled across the table, thin and mechanical. Charts flickered in the air, ancient Terran broadcast fragments, grainy orbital scans, the faint blue outline of a planet they believed had surrendered to silence. "They refuse membership again," the Chancellor hissed. 6 decades of unanswered envoys. Not even an acknowledgement of Concord law. "They are ghosts," said another. "Let us bury them properly." The resolution passed without dissent. 12 claws pressed against glass, 12 lights confirmed. A punitive expedition, 40,000 vessels, dispatched to the Sol exclusion zone. The order code read simple. Demonstrate correction. A stinger hummed beneath the calm. Begin transmission to all member worlds, the chair ordered. This will remind the frontier what authority means. Through the high windows, the fleet bays began to glow. Lines of cruisers emerged from dry dock, hulls patterned in gold and violet, engines swelling with the pride of consensus. Each ship carried the Dominion's crest, each crew prepared for spectacle, not war. "They will surrender within the hour," someone murmured. "Their planet still runs on iron." A younger delegate hesitated. "And if they don't?" The Chancellor's gaze did not lift. "Then we record the purification." History loves a lesson. Across the void, data packets leapt toward Sol, ultimatums wrapped in ceremony, their tone polished, their contempt exact. On Earth, there was no reply. In the silence that followed, even the Dominion's translators softened. "Perhaps," one voice said carefully. "They cannot hear us." "Then we speak louder," replied the Chancellor. 40,000 drives ignited. The stars bent under their heat. A signal officer glanced at his readout. No defensive movement, no fleet signatures, no comms. Just the old orbital lattice, cold and empty. "They have nothing," he said. "Good," came the answer. "Then nothing is what they'll become." For a moment, the chamber lights dimmed under the shadow of the departing armada. Reflected in the glass, the envoys appeared taller than they were, brighter than they felt. No one noticed the faint distortion pulsing through their outbound signal. A low-band echo. Ancient encryption. Origin. Earth. It whispered once through static. A human voice layered under modulation. Acknowledged. Then the transmission cut to black. No one in the Dominion Council mentioned it again. Not yet. The message arrived in silence. No seal. No anthem, no diplomatic overture. Just a short pulse through the Dominion command net, in an obsolete frequency once used by pre-warp traders. "We do not consent to your war." 3 seconds of data. No signature. No defiance. Just refusal. The Dominion admirals replayed it twice, unsure if it was incomplete. They analyzed tone, compression, carrier harmonics. "No emotion, no static. No fear. They mean surrender," one suggested. "They mean insolence," said another. Orders cascaded down the fleet spine. 40,000 ships aligned along Sol's perimeter. Distance, 0.13 light-years. Tactical arrays painted the inner system with sensor cones so dense even comets were tagged. Nothing moved. No orbital defenses, no energy spikes, no fleet registry pings. "Confirm again," the flagship captain said. "Their vessels? How many?" "None detected," the AI replied. The admiral leaned back. "Then we proceed." But the first lieutenant hesitated. "Sir, they're not cloaked. They're just open. Sensors active but cold. No shields. No targeting locks," the admiral frowned. "An invitation?" "Or a warning," whispered the comms officer. Across the void, Earth rotated slowly beneath thin white cloud bands. Cities glimmered, but no weapon grids came online. Orbital debris drifted like faint rings. The planet looked ordinary, vulnerable, forgotten. Broadcast lines flooded with Dominion rhetoric. Liberation, unification, correction. Yet every message bounced back. Acknowledged, recorded, archived. Nothing more. At hour 7, a tactical drone skimmed the moon's surface. No resistance. Data returned clean. But its onboard logs caught something. Low-frequency pulse trains inside the regolith. Structured, rhythmic, human. Could be seismics, one analyst said. Mining signatures, or targeting data, another countered. Still, command hesitated. A council quorum convened aboard the Grand Axiom, reviewing footage of silent cities and unarmed stations. They refuse, said the Chancellor's envoy. That's not defiance, it's theater. And if it's preparation? Then they're fools who die quiet. He authorized the first engagement window. The fleet aligned in perfect geometry, 40,000 points forming a silver crescent across the void. Reactor hums synchronized, energy capacitors cycling at 98%. Readiness, the flagship's optical feed, focused on one tiny blue marble suspended in night. No. Shields, the weapons officer. Confirmed. No countermeasures, added navigation. Then, history begins, said the Admiral. At 02-1704 UTC, the Dominion's first salvo armed. Across Earth's orbit, human satellites turned slowly, aligning their long dead antennas toward the incoming wave. Old emblems flared on metallic skin, unlit for a century. Defense Command watched from deep beneath the Atlantic crust. 12 officers in silence, one transmission in queue. The Admiral of Earth's hidden fleet looked at the script again. 14 words. Unchanged for 60 years. We do not consent to your war. He pressed send. Above, nothing moved. Shields stayed cold. Reactors stayed in reserve. Sensors stayed open. Every Dominion ship received the same reply, repeated at 1-second intervals, until even their translation cores lagged. A single stinger cut through static. Consent withdrawn does not mean unprepared. Then, silence. The fleet waited, uneasy in victory not yet earned, staring into a planet that refused to fight. The first beams arrived before the sound of the order finished transmitting. 40,000 Dominion warships fired in a single synchronized act of certainty. The light reached Earth's orbit 7 seconds later, white, absolute, enough to vaporize a moon. For 12 seconds, the system lit like a sunrise. Planetary oceans flared with reflected brilliance. Lunar dust lifted into orbit. Dominion crews watched the feed in reverent silence, expecting vapor trails, shockwaves, surrender. Instead, the brightness dimmed and remained. From the shadow of Earth's night side, metal lines appeared, dark hulls glimmering with faint cobalt edges. 70 human warships motionless, shields still down. The energy storm cascaded across their armor like rain against stone. Telemetry screamed confusion. Impact energy. Nothing penetrated. Recheck sensors. Confirmed. Surface absorption efficiency, 97.4%. How? No one could answer. The beams intensified. Reactors strained. The void rippled under continuous fire. Yet human ships remained steady, hulls faintly glowing, venting no plasma, showing no damage. Then the impossible, reflected energy. 3% of the bombardment, precisely redirected. Not scattered, not deflected, redirected. The first reflection lanced backward along its origin vector. A single blue filament struck a Dominion cruiser amidships. The vessel folded inward, molten in a breath. Its sister ships caught the residual arc, their own power grids feeding the surge. 5 ships. 9. 12. One line of the formation melted mid-broadcast. Cease fire. The command came too late. Another reflection wave traced across the crescent formation, physics rewritten into punishment. Power feedback loops cascaded through shared energy conduits. Each ship had been tuned for synchronization, their pride now their death. In 32 seconds, the bombardment line fractured. The human ships still hadn't moved. A Dominion engineer whispered, "They used us against ourselves." Data came through raw, human hull composition, unknown alloy, non-reactive at 20,000 degrees, internal magnetic lattices resonant with plasma coherence. "Every number defied record. Return fire," the Admiral shouted. "On what coordinates?" "Anything that glows." Hundreds of Dominion ships broke formation and scattered fire across the silent Terran line. The space between planets bloomed with energy spirals, red, violet, ultraviolet. Yet the Terran ships barely shimmered. Their armor drank the fury, stored it, vented it as soft auroras around their frames. One Terran vessel, designation TNS Valor, pulsed brighter than the rest. For a heartbeat, the Aurora curved backward. Again, another 10 Dominion ships vanished. A sudden quiet. Seized the net. The Dominion admiral stared at his ruined fleet schematic, gaps where thousands of icons should have been. What do they want? He asked. No one replied. On Earth, deep command bunkers monitored everything. Data feeds displayed incoming energy, redistribution vectors, feedback losses in enemy lines. Not a single crew member spoke above a whisper. A young technician exhaled. They'll stop firing soon. The fleet commander nodded. They always stop when they understand. At minute 6, the Dominion bombardment ceased. Across the void, ships flickered under emergency power. The survivors drifted, half-blind, hulls scarred by their own reflected brilliance. Earth's fleet remained still. No counterattack, no signal of triumph. Just the same silent stance. A single transmission followed, short, fire received. Energy returned. The Dominion network went quiet. Even the comm AI halted for 1 second, parsing the message. That was the first recorded pause in Concord battle history. In the black between two worlds, light faded from human armor. Stars reflected clean again. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy realized energy could fail. The void rippled once, then everything broke. Dominion sensors recalibrated 1,000 times per second. Yet the targets blurred, vanishing from predictive models. One moment the Terran fleet drifted motionless above the moon. The next, 70 discrete vectors appeared, accelerating in straight lines that defied any known thrust profile. Mach 27 in vacuum equivalents. No heat bloom, no ion trail. Impossible, the Dominion sensor chief whispered. They're outrunning our targeting algorithms. The Admiral barked for manual overrides, but the screens showed only phantom echoes, hulls shifting faster than the computers could decide if they were there. Tracking radars collapsed under data recursion. Combat AI fed false positives hundreds per second as kinetic trajectories multiplied. Focus on one formation. We can't. They've split into probability clouds. Each Terran vessel moved like a bullet with its own gravity. Acceleration grids re-angled around invisible fulcrums, adjusting thousands of G-forces per microsecond. Even human observers inside couldn't see movement, only shifting stars and the hum of compensated inertia. The doctrine was simple: move faster than prediction, not physics. From the bridge of the TNS Valor, Commander Reyes watched telemetry scroll past. Hold vectors. No weapon locks yet. Targets? Everywhere, her lieutenant replied. Their formations are unraveling themselves trying to keep up. On the Dominion flagship Grand Axiom, tactical readouts spasmed. The neat crescent line degraded into chaos as ships veered to maintain coverage arcs. Pilots overcorrected. Automated guidance crashed. They're cutting through our blind zones, a helmsman said. Blind zones. Sir, everywhere is a blind zone. Within 90 seconds, human ships crossed 8,000 kilometers, each vector weaving into new alignments that formed, dissolved, and reformed like equations written mid-air. Sensor feeds from Dominion escorts lagged by 4 seconds, an eternity in combat physics. They're under our threshold. We can't track kinetic mass at that velocity. A ripple of panic bled through encrypted channels. Fleets accustomed to energy duels suddenly faced motion they couldn't measure. Even the flagship's predictive lattice stuttered as relative velocity data overflowed. Reyes finally gave the quiet order: stabilize acceleration at Tier 7. Let them see what silence looks like in motion. The Terran line contracted, then expanded, a perfect geometric bloom. To external eyes, it looked organic, a swarm of lightless spears gliding between dimensions. Dominion AI concluded the targets had fragmented into decoys. It launched pulse-tracking drones to reacquire contact. The drones never reported back. Human ships had crossed their launch arcs, their magnetic wakes shredding guidance nodes. The Dominion's own tracking network folded against itself. A single analyst, watching from the tactical bay, whispered the first accurate summary. They're not accelerating to us. They're accelerating through us. By the 5th minute, the Dominion formation no longer existed as a coherent structure. Overlapping exhaust trails twisted into luminous braids, the ghost map of a fleet already dead to its own sensors. Inside Terran Command, a calm voice marked the result. All lock attempts collapsed. Maintain velocity. Do not engage weapons, Reyes nodded. Let them exhaust the idea that we can be found. The Dominion admiral stared at the tactical void, disbelief hollowing his voice. Where are they? Everywhere you look, said the comms officer. The Terran fleet coasted past the enemy line, soundless and deliberate. Each ship's hull remained cold, engines quiet. Trajectories exact to the millimeter. In less than 6 minutes, 70 Terran warships occupied firing positions behind the Dominion armada, without a single detected maneuver. Their transmissions resumed. One phrase repeated across every open frequency. Your sensors are not the universe. Then silence again. The Dominion's pride fractured faster than their formations. They fired once. No war cry. No command flare. Just a single coded pulse. Authorization sequence. J-Strike 001. 68 Terran ships aligned as one body. Hulls pivoted fractionally, inertial dampers locking like the draw of breath. Across the fleet, tungsten rods the size of shuttles slid into magnetic rails. Each round bore a registry tag, timestamp, and tribunal packet already attached. Every impact would be evidence. Confirm parameters, said Commander Reyes aboard TNS Valor. Targets 9,200 confirmed hostile hulls. Duration? 314 seconds. Proceed. Space folded into thunder. The first salvo struck before the Dominion realized the Terrans had fired. No radiation warning, no energy spike, just kinetic truth moving at orbital velocity. Rods punched through cruisers like spears through mist. Hulls imploded, atmospheres vented, reactors failed in sequence, telemetry froze. AI analysts couldn't classify the phenomenon. They called it meteor bloom before the feed cut out. Each Terran round was small, 1.5 meters long, 600 kilograms of tungsten alloy. Yet at impact speed, each carried energy equal to a fusion burst. Every shot logged, every trajectory recorded to 6 decimal precision. By the 40th second, the Dominion's central formation fractured. By the 90th, command relays went dark. By the 130th, return fire ceased entirely. Inside the Dominion flagship Grand Axiom, alarms screamed meaningless numbers. No enemy lock, no beam signatures, only proximity warnings that arrived after the ships disintegrated. They're killing us with math, someone whispered. Each Dominion death registered in silence. No gloating, no transmission, just the steady hum of Terran targeting cores cycling through coordinates like a heartbeat. Reyes watched icons vanish on her display, one after another. 71% capacity remaining, her weapons officer reported. Hold, record, and store. These are not kills, they're entries. Every destroyed vessel streamed automatically into the Terran Legal Archive. Impact vector, hull composition, casualty estimates, flight logs, proof that even judgment had protocol. At minute 4, the last salvo launched. The rods burned faintly blue as they passed through plasma debris, their trails fading into vacuum. Then, nothing. No pursuit, no secondary barrage. In total, 9,200 enemy ships erased in 314 seconds. Human losses, 0. A Dominion commander, drifting in a crippled frigate, stared into the dark where the Terran line hung silent. His broadcast went out to all survivors. They do not fight to win. They fight to end counting. On the Valor, comms confirmed completion. Reyes exhaled once. Transmit closure notice. A single line went out across all channels. Engagement concluded. Tribunal record attached. Far below on Earth, legal servers received the data stream. Every impact sealed under the banner of Terran Defense Law. Article 9. Violence must be witnessed to be just. The Dominion fleets burned quietly, drifting toward the sun. No celebration. No anthem. Only calm systems tracking the last fragments of debris before marking the sector secure. When the light finally faded, 70 ships remained aligned in silence. Cease log, Reyes said, the console replied. Strike duration, 314 seconds. Precision variance, 0.03. She nodded once. Good. Let the galaxy study restraint. The guns went silent first. Not from malfunction, not from exhaustion, but choice. The Terran fleet froze in perfect formation, their rail systems cooling in synchronized glow. Across command networks, a single line transmitted on all frequencies. Ceasefire acknowledged. Human medical corridors are open. Dominion survivors, thousands of drifting hulls, hesitated. No further strikes followed. No finishing blows. Only clear, open channels broadcasting precise vectors to safe approach lanes. The Dominion admiral aboard the Grand Axiom stared at the data. "They're calling for surrender?" "Not exactly, sir," said the comms officer.
"They're calling for
evacuation," the admiral scowled. "They annihilate 9,000 ships, then offer mercy?" "Correction," another voice said softly. "They offered mercy first." On the Terran flagship TNS Valor, Commander Reyes reviewed the battle telemetry. A console displayed green arcs radiating outward from the fleet, safe approach corridors marked by gravity buoys and beacon lights. Medical ships detached from formation, gliding like slow-moving suns. Their hulls bore no weapons, only the insignia of a red circle over white. Terran Aid Division. "Confirm bio-authorization protocols," Reyes said. "Done. Full decontamination capacity online. 70,000 medbay beds available. Open comms to enemy survivors." A calm human voice filled the void. "We will not pursue you. Bring your wounded. Ceasefire and you will live. No flourish, no threat. Just clarity." Hours passed before the first Dominion vessel moved. A small corvette limped forward, engines bleeding plasma. Its crew had jettisoned weapons. As it crossed the threshold, Terran drones latched onto its hull, guiding it safely toward docking ports. On Dominion channels, disbelief spread faster than orders. "They're taking prisoners?" "No, patience." "Why?" "Because they can." At the edge of the battle zone, Dominion officers still debated retaliation. Some demanded revenge. Others quietly powered down. But every ship that tried to rearm saw Terran targeting arrays reactivate instantly. No threats, just glowing warnings. No one dared test the line twice. By hour 6, 372 Dominion survivors had been evacuated to Terran medbays. Human surgeons worked in silence, their motion steady and impersonal. No celebration, no mockery, just care. An alien officer lay on a steel table, half blind from reactor burns. He whispered, "Why help us?" The surgeon didn't look up. Because power means nothing if it can't stop. In orbit, Reyes monitored the stream of incoming distress beacons. Her staff recorded every recovery as meticulously as every impact before it. "Ensure every Dominion casualty is logged under Article 9, she said. "Proof of conduct. Even those who fired first? Especially them." On the Grand Axiom, the Dominion admiral finally ordered surrender. His words carried none of his earlier arrogance. "Transmit our acceptance of their corridors." When the message reached the Terran fleet, Reyes merely nodded. "Copy receipt. Maintain ceasefire. The human line never advanced. Not an inch. Their ships remained where the first engagement began, an unbroken wall between Earth and vengeance." The galaxy watched the footage through intercepted streams. Terran ships backlit by solar arcs.
medical transports weaving through wreckage.
Dominion survivors carried aboard without chains. The commentaries stopped calling humanity relics. They began using another word, judges. At 03 Zadar Standard Galactic, the last surviving Dominion cruiser crossed into the safe lane. Reyes folded her hands behind her back, voice low. "End active combat log." "Transition to relief phase," her XO hesitated. "Do we tell them why we stopped?" Reyes looked out at the drifting hulls, glowing faintly in the dark. They'll understand when they heal. The galaxy thought it was over. The Dominion fleet destroyed, ceasefire corridors open, humanity standing still in the calm that follows terror. But when the broadcasts reached neutral space, a second revelation began to unfold, quiet, deliberate, undeniable. The first leak came from the Terran tribunal files, timestamps buried deep in encrypted battle records. They showed fleet position logs dating back decades. 20 separate Terran formations, never declared, never sighted, stationed across known sectors. Each one anchored beside major trade arteries and colonial routes, far beyond Sol's boundary. For years they had been there, waiting. The feeds spread like fire. Every planetary network mirrored the same evidence: location overlays, registry numbers, even medical convoy manifests assigned years before the war began. The Dominion had believed they struck an isolated world. The galaxy now saw an infrastructure woven through their own map, a silent lattice of protection corridors stretching across 6 spiral arms. Commentators called it impossible. Others called it inevitable. On the bridge of TNS Valor, Commander Reyes reviewed the decrypted logs with the same calm that had carried her through battle. The data wasn't a revelation to her. It was confirmation. 20 fleets, said her XO quietly, each already positioned on evacuation routes before the first Dominion ultimatum. Reyes nodded. Because we knew what they would do. Predictive modeling? No, she said. History. Earth had remembered the last time mercy came too late. Every Terran formation had been built not for conquest, but protection. The archives proved it. Transport manifests, humanitarian fleet rosters, planetary shield generators designated for non-combat zones. When Dominion intelligence ran comparisons, they realized the same convoys they dismissed as supply ships were in fact mobile fortresses disguised as freighters. Each convoy had medical decks, food synthesis cores, and atmospheric shelters capable of housing 2 million civilians apiece. The reaction across the Council worlds was panic. If those fleets are real, one senator whispered during an emergency session, then humanity could have struck from anywhere. The reply came from a calmer voice. They could have, but they didn't. Broadcast footage replayed the moment Terran ships opened medbays for Dominion survivors. Now the context deepened. While the Council fought for control, humanity had already been guarding 20 million refugees across conflict zones, protecting enemy civilians from crossfire they hadn't caused. The moral shift was seismic across dozens of planets. Protests erupted demanding alignment with the new Terran protocols. Others accused Earth of manipulation, of orchestrating the war to expose corruption, but no one could deny the precision. Every fleet had been logged with timestamps verified by the Galactic Concord's own authentication servers. It wasn't propaganda, it was mathematics. In the Dominion recovery wards aboard the Valor, wounded officers watched the data on suspended holoscreens. One of them, an admiral whose fleet had burned in the first minutes, spoke with a hoarse voice. "You planned all of this." Reyes regarded him evenly. "We planned for you. You just arrived on schedule." He looked away. "To humiliate us? To keep your civilians alive." For a long time, the admiral said nothing. Then quietly, "You knew about the evacuation routes. Before you struck." "Yes," she said. "Because we do not start wars. We're not ready to end cleanly." Outside, Terran relief ships drifted between debris fields, guiding survivors toward neutral zones. Transmission relays blinked alive along the hidden corridors, revealing medical platforms, food distribution barges, and atmospheric repair stations. 20 fleets, already deployed. 20 million lives already protected. The final archive broadcast ended with a timestamp that stunned even Terran allies. Deployment initiated, year 2173, 20 years before the Dominion's first demand. When the realization spread through the Concord networks, silence followed. An echo of awe, not fear. The galaxy finally understood. Humanity hadn't prepared for war. They had prepared for everyone else's. They came in waves, 6 reinforced fleets. Banners of the coalition blazing like mirrors across the void. 26,800 ships surged into the Sol perimeter, their commanders shouting that humanity had gone too far. The Dominion's defeat, they claimed, was an atrocity to be avenged. Earth did not reply. The Terran fleet held its position around Luna, engines cold, weapon ports sealed. Relief vessels still moved between wrecks, carrying wounded enemies to safety. Every channel stayed open, every signal unarmed, until the first shot struck. A rail lance from a coalition cruiser hit the TNS Valor amidships. The armor drank the blow without scar. Reyes didn't even blink. "Status?" "Nominal," her XO replied. "No shield deployment required." "Then note their intent," she said. They fired first. Across the command net, Terran voices stayed level. The doctrine was clear. No escalation until pattern confirmed. When the second volley hit, it came from all directions. "Pattern confirmed," Reyes said quietly. "Counterfire. Precision only. Disable, not destroy." The reply moved faster than light could explain. 68 Terran ships shifted formation, silent, mathematical. Their rail systems spun, charging cold. Tungsten rounds launched without visible recoil. Invisible until impact. Coalition warships vanished from control instantly. Reactors shut down. Drives severed, communication spines cut by subatomic precision. Every round carried a non-lethal payload. Kinetic displacement, targeted power loss, hull severance without detonation. Within minutes, entire squadrons went dark. Count confirmed, said operations. 6,000 ships disabled. No secondary explosions, Reyes nodded. Continue pattern. No casualties. For 6 hours, the battle unfolded like surgery. Terran vessels wove through the enemy's arcs, firing in intervals measured to the millisecond. Each shot selected for maximum immobilization, minimum death. The void filled with drifting shapes, ships alive but helpless, crews shocked into silence. Every surviving commander on the coalition side began transmitting surrender requests before the third hour closed. Terran command refused to accept yet. The corridors had to stay clear. Rescue vectors had to remain safe. The battle's tempo slowed to a rhythm. Strike, disable, broadcast warning. Strike, disable, open comms. By hour 4, Terran AIs had cataloged every coalition vessel's damage state, adjusting their fire in real time to avoid fatal breaches. The precision bordered on divine, 0 overkill, 0 secondary deaths. At hour 5, the last coalition flagship's captain opened a wideband hail. His voice shook. "Why won't you finish it?" Reyes answered from the Valor, tone unchanging. "Because we're not your reflection." Her order carried across the net. All fire cease. Secure the disabled. The silence that followed was almost physical. No explosions, no dying stars, just quiet wrecks floating in orderly grids, each one logged, each one intact. Tactical display updated, 26,800 ships neutralized. 0 confirmed kills, Reyes exhaled. Upload records to Tribunal Archive. In the aftermath, Terran repair drones launched toward enemy vessels, patching hulls and stabilizing reactors. From afar, it looked like the aftermath of mercy disguised as aftermath of war. Galactic observers, watching from thousands of relays, began to rewrite their definitions. Power, they realized, wasn't destruction. It was choice. On neutral worlds, the broadcasts replayed the data feed. Kinetic trajectories halting meters before lethal thresholds. Medical ships moving through glowing debris, enemy crews alive and breathing. The phrase spread across every network. Precision replaces vengeance. By the end of the 6th hour, the coalition commander requested audience. "We came to punish monsters," he said to the open channel. "And found surgeons." Rhea's voice remained steady. "You found witnesses. Go home and tell them what restraint looks like. Earth's fleet reformed, 68 points of dark steel orbiting quietly above the blue planet. The stars reflected off their hulls like judgment held in reserve. The trials were held in orbit. Not on Earth, but above it, where judgment could be seen without vengeance below it. The station TNS Tribunal floated between the arcs of Luna and Terra, its hull ringed by banners of every known species. Dominion and Coalition admirals were escorted under guard, not by soldiers, but by medics. Their uniforms bore the white circle and red line of Terran neutrality. No chains. No humiliation, just process. Each accused stood before a transparent dais, surrounded by observers from 100 worlds. The proceedings were transmitted live, every word translated, every record cross-referenced with battle logs recorded during the judgment strike. "Under Terran Code 9, intoned the arbiter, "you stand charged not with defeat, but with neglect of conscience." The Dominion admiral who'd ordered the first bombardment struggled to lift his head. "You annihilated our fleets. You call that conscience?" Commander Reyes stood behind the dais, her tone even. "We recorded every impact, every evacuation, every patient we treated. The law is not revenge, it's proof." The footage replayed above them, tungsten strikes, then medbays full of survivors. The audience, billions across the galaxy, watched without commentary. Terran justice did not argue. It documented. By the end of the first week, 12 Dominion admirals, and 9 coalition commanders had been sentenced, not to death, but to service. Each was assigned to rebuild the worlds they had scorched. Under the Charter's new enforcement clause, repair precedes forgiveness. For the first time in galactic history, a victor's tribunal closed without executions. When the Dominion delegation tried to protest, the Arbiter simply pointed to the clause displayed behind her. Mercy is not weakness, it is precision of the soul. On the final day, the Concord convened for its emergency session. Members argued over whether Terran authority could extend beyond Sol. The debate lasted 3 hours before collapsing under its own weight. The Concord's banner was lowered. In its place rose a new declaration, the Charter of Equitable Worlds, signed not by conquerors, but by survivors. Every signatory planet retained sovereignty, but swore adherence to Terran judicial protocols. Crimes of aggression would be tried by evidence, not ideology. Reconstruction became law. The galaxy felt smaller, cleaner, quieter. News feeds replaced old propaganda streams with lists of aid shipments, neutral zones, refugee returns. Even the Dominion's propaganda networks began using Terran medical frequencies for coordination. One surviving coalition officer, watching from orbit, murmured to his escort, "You planned for this." "Even your mercy was a weapon." The medic guiding him shook her head. "Not a weapon. A structure. It holds when fear collapses. Down on Earth, the lights of cities shimmered under thin clouds, unchanged, untouched by the wars fought in their name. Humanity had acted, then stopped, exactly when it chose. In her final address to the Charter Council, Commander Reyes said simply, "Power measured by destruction ends. Power measured by restraint endures." Across the void, delegates bowed their heads, not in surrender, but in comprehension. No one cheered. No one needed to. The age of conquest was over. Written out by precision, archived by mercy. And in that silence, the galaxy learned what justice sounded like when spoken by the species it once called primitive. The signal arrived without warning, deep band, below known relay thresholds. It bypassed every Concord array, every encryption net, and appeared first on the TNS Valor's passive sensors. A single pulse, then 12 more in perfect Fibonacci sequence. Reyes leaned forward. "Origin?" "Outer rim," replied comms. "No planetary source. Lattice transmission, mechanical, not biological. The waveform repeated, ancient, deliberate. When decoded, it rendered Terran military syntax from 2 centuries earlier. A message. We hear you. The bridge fell silent. Far beyond mapped space, 3 distinct beacons flared, each separated by 30 light-years, their alignment forming a geometric arc that matched pre-collapse exterminator routes. The same routes humanity had studied in myth but never confirmed. The lattice was awake again. Across Sol space, Terran Command opened classified archives. Forgotten contingency files unsealed with quiet authorization. Kairos Protocol, Phase 0, the Dominion War, the Charter, the diplomacy. It all froze under the weight of what came next. The Council of the Equitable Worlds convened instantly, demanding explanation. But the Terrans didn't answer. Their ships had already begun to move. From the lunar shadow, 68 vessels reoriented, engines spooling with low, harmonic resonance. Around them, 20 hidden fleets mirrored the motion, each pivoting toward the dark horizon at the galaxy's edge. "Fleet status?" Reyes asked. All formations aligned, waiting final vector. The last image from the outer sensor buoys showed it clearly, a metallic construct stretching thousands of kilometers, its frame older than human civilization, its surface blinking with the same tritone pulse now embedded in every Terran broadcast. Red, blue, white. Repeat. A comms officer whispered, "They're using our color bands." Reyes watched the data scroll, her voice calm. "They're not using them. They remember them." The galaxy's new chartered worlds, Dominion remnants, coalition allies and liberated colonies, sent transmission after transmission, begging to know what was coming. None received a reply. Instead, Terran channels transmitted a single open declaration. Earth acknowledges the exterminator response lattice. Defensive posture enacted. All fleets under silent protocol. For the first time since the war, human ships reignited full power. Fusion wakes flared like dawn across the void. The same precision that had humbled empires now bent toward the unknown. Observers described it as beautiful and terrifying. The coordinated turning of entire armadas, every ship angling toward the dark beyond the rim, as if the stars themselves were realigning. Inside command, Reyes stood before the viewport. "It's confirmation," she said quietly. Her XO nodded. "That they're back? That they never left." The faint pulse repeated across all systems, steady, patient, almost like breathing. "Do we engage?" the XO asked. Reyes considered the silence between beacons. "No. We respond." She opened a channel on the same ancient frequency, her voice carried by gravity wave compression, designed to travel the breadth of galaxies. Signal received. "Humanity stands ready." The beacons answered in kind, an echo through the void, equal in timing, perfect in symmetry. Then darkness again. Reyes turned from the console. "Prepare long-range fleets. Defensive grid priority 3. Inform the charter. I'll watch resumes." Outside, the Terran armadas drifted past Mars orbit, hulls glinting in solar reflection. One by one, their engines flared pale gold, the color of a dawn meant for no one to see yet. From the perspective of a distant probe, the fleet's formation resembled an eye-opening against the galactic rim. The exterminator lattice pulsed once more. Bright, cold and waiting, Earth answered with silence and motion. The age of restraint had ended. The age of vigilance had begun.